Okay, great. So we are diving back into Frankenstein, and we are going to be continuing with chapter 5. And there's only 7 chapters in this volume, so it will be the last 3 chapters of Frankenstein. And yes, this is going up on YouTube later. And to YouTube, hello YouTube. Go check me out on Twitch. Link in the description below. Joking. I rarely advertise anymore on my VODs. Anyways, chapter 5, volume 3, chapter 5 of Frankenstein. Oh my god. The end. The end. I'm sorry. I don't want it to end, but it has to. The voyage came to an end. I did not plan for that. That's actually what it says. I didn't plan for this. The voyage came to an end. We landed and proceeded to Paris. Wait. Right? Oh, yes. Okay. I'm sorry. It's been a while. This is where we left off. I'm so sorry. I soon found that I overexerted my strength, and that my most repose, and I must repose before I could continue my journey. My father's care and attentions were indef- indefatigable. Why does this word exist? Indef- Defatigable. Indefatigable. Oh my god, my mouth can't even say it right. Fantastic, we're moving on. But he did not know the origin of my sufferings. The sought er- erroneous methods to remedy the incurable ill. He wished me to seek amusement in society. I abhorred the face of man. Oh, not abhorred. They were my brethren, my fellow beings, and I felt attracted even though to the most repulsive among them, as to creatures of an angelic nature and celestial mechanism. But I felt that I had no right to share that intercourse. I had unchained an enemy among them, whose joy it was to shed their blood and to reveal in their groans how they would reach how how they would each and all adore me and haunt me from the world. Did they know my unhallowed acts and crimes which he had their source in me? What the fuck is going on in my chat? in in defeat yeah, I'm never I even with that I can't learn to pronounce adjective of
I will send you to
oh
Jesus.
I I like how there's a duel going on and they're just like, I shall send you to Jesus. Oh my goodness. I feel like dun 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 is gonna happen a lot when we're doing the Christmas Carol or this one. There we go. My father yielded at length to my desire to avoid society, and strove by various arguments to banish my despair. Sometimes he thought that I felt deep the degradation of being obligated to answer a charge of murder, and he endeavored to prove to me the futility futility of pride. Oh yeah, me with my spear. That's another fun one. I still need to redo it, but that's a fun emote that I have. Me with my shiny spear. Not an ad. Ad started start of the duel. Oh no. Well, thought it was a claw hand. Lol. No, that emo is a it's I have a spear. I don't think I've ever no, I have one art piece of me holding my spear. Don't worry, there'll be more eventually, but yeah, I am a spear wielder. I use a spear in order to summon that of lightning. Anyways, continuing on. Alas, my father, said I, how little do you know? Human beings, their feelings and passions would indeed be degraded if such a wretch as I felt pride. Justine, poor unhappy Justine, was as innocent as I, and she suffered the same charge. She died for it. And I am the cause of this. I murdered her. William, Justine, and Henry, they all died by my hands. My father had often during my imprisonment heard me make the same assertion when I thus accused myself. He sometimes seemed to desire me an explanation, and at others he appeared to be concerned, like, appeared to consider it as the offspring of delirium, and that, during my illness, some idea of this kind had pressed itself to my imagination, the remembrance of which I preserved in my convalescence. I avoided explanation and maintained a connectional silence concerning the wretch I had created. Good reading, Mr. Thanks. I've been warming up to spears lately. Found a decent one online. Ooh, nice, nice. It all started with a broom and ended with a spear. That's what I did. Where was I? Oh, I had there you go. I had a persuasion that I should be supposed mad, and this in itself would forever have chained my tongue. But besides, I could not bring myself to disclose a secret which would fill my hearer with constern consternation, and make fear and unnatural horror the inmates of his breast. I checked, therefore, my impatient thirst for sympathy, and was silent when I would have given the world to have confided the factual truth, the fatal secret. Yet, still words like those I have recorded would burst uncontrollably from me. I could offer no explanation of them, but their truth, in part, revealed the burden of my mysterious woe. Upon this occasion, my father said, with an expression of unbounded wonder, "My dearest Victor, what infantilization is this? My dear son, I entreat you never to make such an assertion again." "I am not mad," I cried. "Oh, I am not mad," I cried energetically. "The sun and the heavens, who have viewed my operations, can hear witness of my truth. I am in the assassination of those most innocent victims. They died by my machinations. 1,000 times would I have shed my own blood, drop by drop, to have saved their lives. But I could not, my father. Indeed, I could not sacrifice the whole human race." The conclusion of this speech convinced my father that my ideas were degraded, and he instantly changed the subject of our conversation, and endeavored to alert the course of my thoughts. He wished as much as possible to obliterate the memory of these scenes that had taken place in Ireland, and never alluded to them, or suffered me to speak of my misfortunes. As time passed away, I became more calm. Misery had ever dwelling in my heart, but I no longer talked in the same incoherent manner of my own crimes. Sufficient for me was the the consciousness of them, but the utmost self-violence I curbed the imperious voice of wretchedness, which sometimes desired to declare itself to the whole world. My manners were calmer and more composed than that had ever been since my journey to the Sea of Ice. A few days before we left Paris, on our way to Switzerland, I received the following letter from Elizabeth. Now, before I continue on, I just want to preface this. A lot of people, I feel like, believe that the entirety of Frankenstein is like Dutch, when in really it's Swiss. In reality, it's Swiss, which is very interesting considering that this was actually written by a woman in Britain. So, but of course, she traveled to a lot of different places because she was a very lucky woman to have traveled. So there is that. But anyways, so continuing on with the letter from Elizabeth. Big up UK. Yeah, this is a Victorian Gothic novel, so I mean, Mary Shelley is from you, Dr. Cragglewort. Along with Charles Dickens, which we will be reading next. My dear friend, it gave me the greatest pleasure to receive a letter from my uncle dated to Paris. You are no longer at a formidable distance, and I may hope to see you in less than a fortnight. My poor cousin, how much have you, how much you must have suffered. I expected to see you looking even more ill than when you quitted Geneva. This winter has been passed more miserably tortured, as I have been by anxious suspense. Yet I hope to see peace in your countenance, and to find that your heart is not totally void of comfort and tranquillity. Yet I fear that the same feelings now exist that made you so miserable a year ago, even perhaps augmented by time. I would not disturb you at this period, when so many misfortunes weigh upon you, but a conversation that I had with my uncle previous to his departure renders some explanation necessary before we meet. Explanation, you may possibly say. What can Elizabeth have to explain? If you really say this, my questions are answered, and all my doubts satisfied. But you are distant from me, and it is possible that you may dread and yet be pleased with this explanation. And I, in probability of this being the case, I dare not any longer postpone writing what during your absence I often wish to express to you, but have never had the courage to begin. You will know, Victor, that our union had been the favorite plan of your parents ever since our infancy. We were found this when young, and taught to look forward to it when as an event that would certainly take place. We were affectionate playfellows during childhood, and I believe, dear and valued friends, to one another as we grew older. But as brother and sister often entertain a lively affection towards each other, without desiring a more intimate union, may not such also be the case? Tell me, dearest Victor, answer me, I conjure you. By our mutual happiness, with simple truth, do you not love another? You have traveled, you have spent several years of your life in Ingolstadt, and I confess to you, my friend, that when I saw you last autumn so unhappy, flying to solitude from the society of every creature, I could not help supposing that you might regret our connection, and believe yourself bound in honor to fulfill the wishes of your parents, although they suppose themselves to your inclinations. But this is a false reasoning. I confess to you, my friend, that I love you, and that in my area dreams of futurity, you have been my consistent friend and companion. But it is your happiness I desire as well as my own. When I declare to you that our marriage would render me internally miserable unless it was the dictate of your own free choice. Even now I weep to think that, bore down as you are by the cruelest misfortunes, you may stifle by the word honor all hope of that love and happiness which would alone restore you to yourself. I, who have disinterested an affection for you, may increase your miseries tenfold by being an obscure to your wishes. Ah, Victor, be assured that your cousin and playmate has too sincere a love for you not to be made miserable by this suspicion. Be happy, my friend. If you obey me in this one request, remain satisfied that nothing on earth will have the power to interpret my tranquillity. Do not let this letter disturb you. Do not answer tomorrow, or the next day, or even until you come, if it will give you pain. My uncle will send me news of your health, and if I see that one smile on your lips when we meet, occasioned by this or any other exertion of mine, I shall need no other happiness. Elizabeth Levinza, Geneva, May 18th, 1700s. I don't know what 1700s because it just says 17 and a dash. That's how it's written, so it's just kind of obligate. You know, like how we get the 20, like it says 20 but XX and we don't exactly know the date? It's basically that, but the written version. Because now they changed it to XX instead of the dash, but the dash and the XX are now interchangeable, which is very interesting within writing that things change. As a writer, you got to keep up on that stuff because if you don't, well, your writing is seen as improper. How improper of you to write so vulgarly. This letter revived in my memory that I had before forgotten. The threat of the fiend. I will be with you on your wedding night. Okay, it's starting to get a little dark in my room because I forget that it's daylight savings time right now and it is getting dark. Hold on, I gotta go turn on my light. I will be right back and then we will continue on. Wait. I have to go so far away in order to turn on the light because of where my desk is. Anyways, let us continue on. Oh my god, I can see! Such was my sentence on the night would be the daemon and such was my sentence, and on that night would the daemon employ every art to destroy me, and tear me from the glimpse of happiness which promised partly to console my sufferings. On that night he had determined to consummate his crimes by my death. Well, be it so. A deadly struggle would then assuredly take place, in which if he were victorious, I should be at peace, and his power over me be at an end. If he were vanquished, I should be a free man. Alas, what freedom! Such as the peasant enjoys when his family have been massacred before his eyes, his cottage burnt, his land laid waste, and he is turned adrift, homeless, penniless, and alone, but free. Such would be my liberty, except that in my Elizabeth I possessed a treasure. Alas, balanced by those horrors of remorse and guilt, which would pleasure me until death. Which would pursue me into death, not pleasure. No. Sweet and beloved Elizabeth, I read and reread her letter, and some oft softened feelings stole into my heart, and dared to whisper paradis- paradisical, paradisical dreams of love and joy. But the apple was already eaten, and the angel's arm bared to drive me from all hope. Yet I would die to make her happy. If the monster executed his threat, death was inevitable. Yet again I considered whether my marriage would hasten my fate. My destruction might indeed arrive a few months sooner, but if my torturer would suspect that I postponed it, influenced by his menaces, he would surely find other and perhaps more dreadful means of revenge. He had vowed to be there on my wedding night, yet he did not consider that threat as binding him to peace in the meantime, for as if to show me that he has not yet satisfied me. Yeah, that he has not. Oh my God, words. There are words on the page. Yet satiated. Oh, satiated? That seems weird to say. Why not just put saturated with blood? He had murdered Saval immediately after the enumeration of his threats. I resolved, therefore, that if my imminent union with my cousin would conduce either to hers or my father's happiness, my adversary designs against my life should not be retarded, and it a should not retard it a single hour. In this state of mind, I wrote to Elizabeth. My letter was calm and affectionate. I fear, my beloved girl, I said, little happiness remains for us on earth, yet all that I may one day enjoy is centered in you. Chase away your idle fears. To you alone do I concentrate my life and my endeavors for contentment. I have one secret, Elizabeth, a dreadful one. When revealed to you, it will chill your frame with horror, and then, or being surprised at my misery, you will only wonder that I survived, that I have endured. I will confide this tale of misery and terror to you the day after our marriage shall take place. For my sweet cousin, there must be perfect confidence between us, or confidence between us. But until then, I conjure you, do not mention or allude to it. This I most earnestly entreat, and I know you will comply. In about a week after the arrival of Elizabeth's letter, we returned to Geneva. The sweetest girl welcomed me with a warm affection, yet tears were in her eyes as she beheld my incap in oh my god emaciated frame and feverish cheeks. I saw a change in her also. She was thinner, and had lost much of that heavenly vivacity that had before charmed me. But her gentleness and soft looks of compassion made her a more fit companion for one blasted miserable as I was. The tranquillity which I now enjoyed did not endure. Memory brought madness with it, and when I thought of what had passed, a real insanity possessed me. Sometimes I was furious and burnt with rage, sometimes low and despondent. I neither spoke nor looked at anyone, but sat motionless, bewildered by the multitude of miseries that overcame me. Elizabeth alone had the power to draw me from these fits. Her gentle voice would soothe me when transported by passion and inspire me with human feelings when sunk in torpor. She wept with me and for me. When reason returned, she would remonstrate and endeavor to inspire me with resignation. Resignation. Ah, it was well for the unfortunate to be resigned, but for the guilty there is no peace. The agonies of remorse poison the luxury there is otherwise sometimes found in indulging the excess of grief. Soon after my arrival, my father spoke of my immediate marriage with Elizabeth. I remained silent. Have you then some other attachment? None on earth. Love Elizabeth, and look forward to our union with delight. Let the day therefore be fixed, and on it I will concentrate myself in life and in death to the happiness of my cousin. My dear Victor, do not speak thus. Heavy misfortunes have befallen us, but let us only cling closer to what remains and transfer our love for those whom we have lost to those who yet live. Our circle shall be small, but bound close by ties of affection and mutual misfortune. And when time shall have softened your despair, new and dear objects of care will be born to replace those of whom we have been so cruelly deprived. Such were the lessons of my father, but to me the remembrance of the threat returned, nor can you wonder that opponent, omnipotent as the fiend, had yet been in the deeds of blood. I should almost regard him as invincible, and that when he had pronounced the words, "I shall be with you on your wedding night," I should regard the threatened fate as unavoidable. But death was no evil to me, if the loss of Elizabeth were balanced with it, and I therefore with a contented and even cheerful countenance agreed with my father that if my cousin would consent, the ceremony would take place in 10 days, and thus put, as I imagined, the seal to my fate. Great God! If for one instant I had thought what might be the hellish intention of my fiendish adversary, I would rather have banished myself for ever from my native country, and wandered a friendless outcast over the earth, than have consented to this miserable marriage. But, as if possessed of magic powers, the monster had blinded me to his real intentions. When I thought that I had prepared only my own death, I hastened that of a far dearer victim. As the period fixed for our marriage drew nearer, whether from cowardice or prophetic feeling, I felt my heart sink within me, but I concluded my feelings, or concealed my feelings, by my appearance of hilarity that brought smiles and joy to the countenance of my father, but hardly deceived the ever watchful and nicer eye of Elizabeth. She looked forward to our union with placid contentment, not unmingled with a little fear, which past misfortunes had impressed that what now appeared certain and tangible happiness might soon dissipate into an airy dream and leave no trace but deep and everlasting regret. Preparations were made for the event. Congratulatory visits were received, and all wore a smiling appearance. I shut up, as well as I could, in my own heart the anxiety that preyed there, and entered with a seeing earnestness into the plans of my father, although they might only serve as the decorations of my tragedy. Through my father's exertions a part of the inheritance of Elizabeth and been restored to her by the Austrian government. A small possession on the shores of Como belonged to her. It was agreed that immediately after our union we should proceed to Villa Lavenza and spend our first days of happiness beside the beautiful lake near which it stood. Hold on, I need a drink. Get my water. You know what's funny is I don't know why I use this glass as a water glass when it is literally just a wine glass. It is a witchy wine glass. It has a bunch of skulls on it, which seems fitting for this reading. When you're so themed that even your water that you have IRL in a cup is themed. Oh, hush. Oh, Kragor, you're playing You're playing, not Castlevania. You're playing Resident Evil 4. Nice. Man, he's going through all the Resident Evil games, man. Okay, great crack. In the meantime, I took every precaution to defend my person in case the fiend should openly attack me. I carried pistols and a dagger constantly around me, and was ever on the watch to prevent artifice, and by those means gained a greater degree of tranquillity. Indeed, as the period approached, the threat appeared more as a delusion, not to be regarded as worthy to disturb my peace, while the happiness I hoped for in my marriage wore a greater appearance of certainty. As the day fixed for its solemnization drew nearer, and I heard it continually spoken of this an occurrence which no accident could possibly prevent. Elizabeth seemed happy, tranquil, demeanor contributed greatly to calm her mind. But on the day that was to fulfill my wishes and my destiny, she was melancholy, and a presentiment of evil perceived her, and perhaps also she thought of the dreadful secret which I had promised to reveal to her on the following day. My father was in the meantime overjoyed, and the bustle of preparation only recognized in the melancholy of his niece the diffidence of a bride. After the ceremony was performed, a large party assembled at my father's, but it was agreed that Elizabeth and I should commence our journey by water, sleeping that night at Evan, and continuing our voyage on the following day. The day was fair, and the wind favorable. All seemed on our nuptial embarkation. Those were the last moments of my life during which I enjoyed the feeling of happiness. We passed rapidly along. The sun was hot, but was sheltered from its rays by a kind of canopy. While we enjoyed the beauty of the scene, sometimes on one side of the lake, where we saw Mount Ceval and the pleasant banks of Montalegre, and at the distance surmounting all, the beautiful Mount Blanc, and the assemblage of snowy mountains that in vain endeavored to emulate her, sometimes coasting the opposite banks. We saw the mighty Jura opposing its dark side the ambition that would quit its native country, and an almost insurmountable barrier to the invader who should wish to enslave it. I took the hand of Elizabeth. You were sorrowful, my love. Ah, if you knew what I have suffered. and what I may yet endure, you would endeavor to let me taste the quiet and freedom, the quiet and freedom from despair that is one day at least permits me to enjoy. Be happy, my dear Victor, replied Elizabeth. There is, I hope, nothing to distress you, and be assured that if a lovely joy is not painted in my face, my heart is contented. Something whispers to me not to depend too much on the prospect that is opened before us, but I will not listen to such sinister voice. Observe now how fast we move along, and how the clouds which sometimes obscure and sometimes rise above the dome of Mount Blanc render the scene of beauty still more interesting. Look also at the innumerable fish that are swimming in the clear waters, where we can distinguish every pebble that lies at the bottom. What a divine day! How happy the scenery all nature appears! Thus Elizabeth endeavored to divert her thoughts and mine from all reflections upon melancholy subjects, but her temper was fluctuating. Joy for a few instants shone in her eyes, but it continually gave place to distraction and revive. Oh my gosh, reverie, distraction and reverie. Oh my goodness. My nose is getting clogged up from talking so much. I don't know why it does this. The sun sunk lower in the heavens. We passed the river Drance, and observed its pass, although the chasm of the higher and the gleams of the lower hills, or the glens of the lower hills. The Alps here came closer to the lake, and were approached. When we approached the amphitheater of mountains, which forms its eastern boundary. The, the spire of Evon shone under the woods that surrounded it, and the range of mountain above mountain by which it was overhung. The wind, which had hitherto carried us along, was amazingly rapid, sung at sunset to a light breeze. The soft air just ruffled the water, and caused a pleasant motion among the trees as we approached the shore, from which it wafted, and the most delightful scent of flowers and hay. The sun sunk beneath the horizon as we landed, and as I touched the shore, I felt those cares and fears revive, which soon were to clasp me and cling to me forever. Hold on, I'm gonna do a little trick to help with my nose a little bit. But also, I just kind of want to look away from the book a minute. Okay, I learned a trick. Oh my gosh, I have to take my glasses off for this. I learned a trick to to help with my nose because I have really bad sinuses sometimes. And I learned a trick, so I'm gonna just do it. And of course my face tracking breaks. Hold on, like takes a few seconds. And then we should be back to our regularly scheduled program. Oh my god, I can breathe. It basically like drains out all my sinuses by hitting the pressure points that I need to. Yeah, when you hit the right pressure points, everything's gonna work just fine. Anyways. Next chapter. Chapter 6. It was 8 o'clock when we landed. We talked for a short time on the shore, enjoying the transitionary light, and then and then retired to the inn, and contemplated the lovely scenes of waters, woods, and mountains obscured in the dark scenes, yet still displaying their black outlines. The wind, which had fallen in the south, now rose with great violence in the west. The moon had reached her summit in the heavens, and was beginning to descend. The clouds swept across it swifter than the flight of the oh my god than the flight of the vulture, and dimmed her rays, while the light reflected the scene of the busy heavens, rendered still busier by the restless waves that were beginning to rise. Suddenly a heavy storm of rain descended. I had been calm during the day, but so soon as the night obscured the shapes of objects, 1,000 fears rose in my head. I was anxious and watchful, while my right hand grasped a pistol which was hidden in my bosom. Every sound terrified me, but I resolved that I would sell my life dearly, and not shrink from the conflict until my own life, or that of my ad- adversary, adversary was extinguished. Elizabeth obscured my agitation for some time in timid and fearful silence, but there was something in my glance which communicated terror to her, and trembled she asked, "What is it that agitates you, my dear Victor? What is it you fear?" "Oh, peace, peace, my love," replied I. This night, and all will be safe. But this night is dreadful, very dreadful." I passed an hour in this state of mind, when suddenly I reflected how fearful the combat which I momentarily expected would be to my wife, and I earnestly entreated her to retire, resolving not to join her until I had obtained some knowledge as to the situation of my enemy. She left me, and I continued some time walking up and down the passages of the house, and inspected every corner that might afford a retreat to my adversary. But I discovered no trace of him, and was beginning to conjecture that some fortunate chance had intervened to prevent the execution of his menaces, when suddenly I heard a shrill and dreadful scream. It came from the room into which Elizabeth had retired. As I heard it, the whole truth rushed into my mind. My arms dropped, the motion of every muscle and fibre was suspended. I could feel the blood trickling in my veins, tingling in the extremities of my limbs. This state lasted but for an instant. The scream was repeated, and I rushed into the room. Great God, why did I not then expire? Why am I here to relate the desolation of the best hope and the purest creature on earth? She was there, lifeless and inanimate, thrown across the bed, her head hanging down, and her pale, distorted features half covered by her hair. Everywhere I turn, I see the same figure, her bloodless arms relaxed, her bloodless arms relaxed from flung by the murderer on its bridal barrier. Could I behold this and live? Alas, life is absent, and clings closest where it is most hated. For a moment only did I lose recollection. I fell senseless on the ground. When I recovered, I found myself surrounded by people of the inn. Their countenance expressed a breathless terror, but the horror of others appeared only as a mockery, a shadow of the feelings that oppressed me. I escaped from them to the room where lay the body of Elizabeth, my love, my wife, so lately living, so dear, so worthy. She had been moved from the posture in which I had first beheld her, and now as she lay, her head upon her arms, and a handkerchief thrown across her face and neck, I might have supposed her asleep. I rushed towards her, embraced her without ardor, but the deadly languor and coldness of the limbs told me that I now held my arms the ceased to be the Elizabeth whom I had loved, cherished. The murderous mark of the fiend's grasp was on her neck, and the breath had ceased to issue from her lips. While I still hung over her in the agony of despair, I happened to look up. The windows of the room had before been darkened, and I felt a kind of panic on seeing the pale yellow light of the moon illuminating the chamber. The shutters had been thrown back, and with a sensation of horror not to be described, I saw at the open window a figure the most hideous and abhorred. A grin was on the face of the monster. He seemed to jeer as his fiendish finger he pointed towards the corpse of my wife. I rushed towards the window, and drawing a pistol from my bosom, fired, but he eluded me, leaped from his station, and running with the swiftness of lightning, plunged into the lake. The report of the pistol brought a crowd into the room, and I pointed to the spot where he had disappeared, and followed the track with boats. Nets were cast, but in vain. After passing several hours, we returned hopeless, most of my companions believing it to have been a form conjured by my fancy. After having landed, they proceeded to search the country, parties going in different directions among the woods and vines. I attempted to accompany them, not occupy them. Proceeded a short distance from the house, but my head whirled round. My steps were like those of a drunken man. I fell at last in a state of utter exhaustion. A film covered my eyes. My skin was parched with the heart of fever. In this state, I was carried back and placed on my bed, hardly conscious of what had happened. My eyes wandered round the room, as if to seek something that I had lost. After an interval, I rose, and, as if by instinct, crawled into the room where the corpse of my beloved lay. There were women weeping around. I hung over it, and joined my sad tears to theirs. All this time, no distinct idea presented itself to my mind, but my thoughts rambled to various subjects, reflecting confusedly on my misfortunes and their cause. I was bewildered in a cloud of wonder and horror. The death of William, the execution of Justine, the murder of Saval, and lastly, my wife. Even at that moment, I knew that not that I knew not that my only remaining friends were safe from the malignity of the fiend. My father, even now, might be withered under his grasp, and Ernest might be dead at his feet. This idea made me shudder, and recalled me to action. I started up and resolved to return to Geneva with all possible speed. There was no horses to be procured, and I must return by the lake. But the wind was unfavorable, and the rain fell in torrents. However, it was hardly morning, and I might reasonably hope to arrive by night. I hired men to row, and took an oar myself, for I had always experienced relief from mental torment in bodily exercise. But the overwhelming misery I now felt, and the excess of agitation that I endured, rendered me incapable of any exertion. I threw down the oar, and leaning my head upon my hands, gave way to every gloom indeed that arose. If I looked up, I saw scenes which were familiar to me in my happier time, which I had contemplated but the day before in the company of her who was now but a shadow and a recollection. Tears streamed from my eyes. The rain had ceased for a moment, and I saw the fish play in the water as they had done a few hours before. They had then been observed by Elizabeth. Nothing is so painful to the human mind as a great and sudden change. The sun might shine or the clouds might lower, but nothing could appear to me as it had done before the day before. A fiend had snatched my every hope of future happiness. No creature had ever been so miserable as I was. So frightful an event is single in the history of man. But why should I dwell upon the incidents that followed this last overwhelming event? Mine has been a tale of horrors. I have reached their acme, and that I must now relate can but the can but the tedious to you. Know that one by one my friends were snatched away. I was left desolate. My own strength is exhausted, and I must tell in a few words what remains of my hideous narration. I arrived at Geneva. My father and Ernest yet lived, but the former sunk under the tidings that I bore. I see him now, excellent and venerable old man. Vulnerable old man. His eyes wandered in vacancy, for they had lost their charm and their delight. His Elizabeth, his more than daughter, whom he doted on with all that affection which a man feels, who, in the decline of life, having few affections, clings more earnestly to those that remain. Cursed by the fiend that brought misery on his grey hairs, and doomed him to waste in wretchedness. He could not live under the horrors that were accumulated around him. The springs of existence suddenly gave way. He was unable to rise from his bed in a few days. He died in my arms. What then became of me? I know not. I lost sensation, and chains and darkness were the only objects that pressed upon me. Sometimes, indeed, I dreamt that I wandered in flowery meadows and pleasant vales with the friends of my youth, but I awoke and found myself in a dungeon. Melancholy followed, but by degrees I gained a clearer conception of my miseries and situation, and was then released from my prison, for they had called me mad, and during many months, as I understood, solitary cell had been my habitation. Liberty, however, had been a useless gift to me, had I not, as I awakened to reason, at the same time awakened to revenge. As a memory of past misfortunes pressed upon me, I began to reflect on their cause. The monster whom I had created, the miserable Damon who I had sent abroad into the world for my destruction. I was pressed by a maddening rage when I thought of him, and desired and ardently prayed that I might have him within my grasp to wreak a great and single revenge on his cursed head. Nor did my hate long confine itself to useless wishes. I began to reflect on the best means of securing him, and for this purpose, about a month after my release, I repaired to a criminal judge in the town, and told him that I had an accusation to make, that I knew the destroyer of my family, and that I required him to exert his whole authority to the apprehension of the murderer. The magistrate listened to me with attention and kindness. "Be assured, sir," said he, "no pains or exertions on my part shall be spared to discover the villain. I thank you, replied I. Listen, therefore, to the disposition that I have to make. It is indeed a tale of strange, that I should fear you would not credit it, were there not something in truth which, however wonderful, forces conviction. The story is too connected to be mistaken for a dream, and I have no motive for falsehood. My manner as I thus addressed him was impressive but calm. I had formed in my mind my own heart a resolution to pursue my destroyer to death. And this purpose quitted my agony, for an interval recalled me to life. I now related my history briefly, but with firmness and precision, marking the dates with accuracy, and never devoting into invocate or exclamation. The magistrate appeared at first perfectly incurious, but as I continued, he became more attentive and interested. I saw him sometimes shudder with horror, at others a lively surprise, unmingled with belief, and painted on his countenance. When I concluded with my narration, I said, "This is the being whom I accuse, and for whose seizure and punishment I call upon you to exert your whole power. It is your duty as a magistrate, and I believe and hope that your feelings as a man will not revolt from the execution of those functions on this occasion." This address caused a considerable change in the psychognomy of my own auditor. He had heard my story with that half kind of belief that is given to a tale of spirits and supernatural events, but when he was called upon to act officially in consequence, the whole tide of his incredulity returned. He, however, answered mildly, "I would willingly afford you every aid in your pursuit, but the creature of whom you speak of appears to have powers which would put all my exertions to defiance. Who can follow an animal which can traverse the sea of ice and inhabit caves and dens where no man would venture to intrude? Besides, some months have elapsed since the commission of his crimes, and no one can conjecture to what place he has wandered, or to what region he may now inhabit. I do not doubt that he hovers near the spot which I inhabit, and, if he has indeed taken refuge in the Alps, he may be hunted like the Camus, and destroyed as a beast of prey. But I perceive your thoughts. You do not credit my narrative, and do not intend to pursue my enemy with the punishment which is his desert." As I spoke, rage sparkled in my eyes. The magistrate was intimidated. "You are mistaken," said he. "I will exert myself, and it is in my power to seize the monster. Be assured that he shall suffer punishment proportionate to his crimes. But I fear, from what you have yourself described to be his properties, that this will prove impracticable, and thus, while every proper measure is pursued, you should make up your mind to disappointment." "That cannot be, but all that I can say will be of little avail. My revenge is of no moment to you. Yet will I allow it to be a vice, confess that it is the devouring and only passion of my soul? My rage is unspeakable when I reflect that the murderer whom I have turned loose upon society still exists. You refuse my just demand. I have but one resource, and I devote myself either in my life or death to the destruction. I tremble with this excuse of agitation. As I said this, there was a frenzy in my manner, and something, I doubt not, of that hauntly fierceness which the martyrs of old are said to have possessed. But to a Genevan magistrate whose mind was occupied by far other ideas than those of devotion and heroism, this elevation of my mind had such the appearance of madness, and endeavored to soothe me as a nurse does a child, and reverted to my tale of the affections of delirium. Man, I cried, how ignorant art thou in pride of wisdom! Cease! You know not what it is, you say. I broke from the house, angry and disturbed, and retired to mediate on some other mode of action. Ahoy, ahoy, Spot. Sorry, I just wanted to really finish that chapter. By the way, just so you all know, we are actually on the last we are actually now on the last hold on. Yeah. We are actually now on the last. What a stretch. Thank you, bot. Also, you coming in with that bongo cat. Hey yo. It's so nice to see you know, my emotes being used. I love spent so many hours on them. No, I'm joking. um but yeah, oh my gosh. But anyways, for those coming in, Victor got married, and then the same day his wife dies, because the monster comes in and kills her. And also now his father is dead because of all the things that have happened. So that's what all that was. And it only gets worse from here. I'm not joking. You know, I would love for there to be some sort of happy ending within Victorian writing, but there never is. It's always a tragedy. I never expect something happy to occur on such a dark, horrific story. But anyways, we are now on the final chapter. The final one. And this is a long chapter, by the way. It's a very long chapter. I'm gonna just tell you this right now. It's probably the longest chapter that is in this entire book. And that's saying something. About like Grimm's fairy tales. I actually do have a book of the book of Grimm, which is basically a bunch of the Grimm fairy tales. Maybe after we do A Christmas Carol, I'll pull that out because you guys like kind of the horror and gore, and I mean Grimm's fairy tales are in the in the thing of public domain. Oh my gosh. I'm back. Hey yo. Coming back with a duel too. Nice, nice. Yeah, boy. Let's see how this is gonna end up.
I will send you to Jesus.
Oh my gosh. Oh, very strange. Did you guys hear that I will send you to Jesus? Oh, are you kidding me? Yes? Okay, good. My headset actually is not connected anymore, but it's okay. I'm gonna turn that off. Ooh, congratulations! Congratulations! Joke's on you. Jesus, don't want me low. Oh my god. I actually got a question considering Jesus. So after we do A Christmas Carol, there's two options. No. After we do A Christmas Carol, we have two options. We have I need to look at how long this one book is, but I was thinking either we do H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, or we do the Grimms. We do the Tales of Grimms. Like the Brothers Grimms. We could do either one of those. The other thing is that we could also do another book. I have to look it up of how long it is. Uh, we could do Paradise Lost, which is a fun one. I think it was made around a similar time as Dante's Inferno. No, I am not gonna read Dante's Inferno. I'm sorry. I would rather play the game than read that. I honestly, honestly, because I've seen the overviews of it. No, yeah, GG to you both. Yeah, because I've seen reviews of it, and it's a lot. But the reason I say that we could do that one is because I do want to read it, and it would force me to read it. um but yeah, again, I'm trying to find books that are within the public domain. If we want to read something fun, I guess we could read The Great Gatsby. Well, The Great Gatsby isn't really quote fun, but we could read The Great Gatsby. Um or I could try and find a fun one that we could read that's within the public domain to be able to read. Oh, it's a mailman. It's a mailwoman. I just see something out of the corner of my eye and I'm like, what's that? But before we continue on with the last chapter, I actually need to go use the bathroom. So it's probably best for me to go and use the bathroom, and then we shall finish this up. And when we end, if we end early, because I kind of want to do a little bit, maybe like a few more hours, we can just talk about the book, or we can talk about what book we're gonna read next, or kind of make a book, like a reading list. We'll make a reading list for like next year of what we're gonna read. Now, will we read all of them? Who knows? But it gets me to read books, and I like this and you guys like it, and I want this to be a constant Saturday thing. Um or at least a weekend thing, so where we just do a reading thing. So yeah, there's that. Wait, I just realized. Daiko, if you are in here, if you're not just listening or learning, when is your stream gonna be for the figure things? Cause I got Ray really wants to know. Ray really wants to know. And if not, I will claim all the Miku if she's not able to come, I told her I would claim all the Miku figures for her. Cause she wants them. I told her she wants them all. But yeah, just think about that, because I really actually gotta go to the bathroom. So I will be right back. George, you're in charge. Again. Hello, hello. Right. Raid. Hi, Raiders. Hello, hello. Welcome in, welcome in. Hi, hi, hi. I am Art. We are currently doing some Frankenstein reading. We are literally on the last chapter. Here, hold on. My mom is not here, so let me do Wait, hold on, shout out. There we go. And then also a just regular shout out. There we go. That's your regular shout out, little dog, little Cragglewort. Hey, hello. hello, everyone else. Ooh. Oh my gosh. Who did the boo? Oh my god. Who did it? Who did the boo? Where's the boo? Why is it not showing up? That's weird. That's funny. But yeah, hello. I saw that you were playing Resident Evil 4. How was Resident Evil 4? You're going through all of them. You just came in, Raiders, at the last chapter that we're going to be reading of Frankenstein. So if you do not want any spoilers for the ending of Frankenstein, please do leave now. But if you want to stay, nearly done, wait, what? Sorry, I'm having a... Who did it? Who did the boo? I'm guessing Daiko. Daiko, you with your boo. You have to always bring in the boo. You have to always come in with a boo. Oh look! Oh no, that's my mom. But hello, welcome in, everybody. Hi. You're nearly done. Okay, good. That's good to see that you're nearly done. I'm proud of you. I am proud of you. You're getting through it. I don't think I could. I don't think I could ever get through any Resident Evil game. Hi, Leia. My dog is sleeping on our bed right near us. Eventually, dog cam. I'm working on that. Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Cragglewort gets a free praise because of course he does. with all and with that and with your what you did. Oh yeah, Dr. Cragglewort did a 9.5-hour stream yesterday. Bibbidi boobity doinkle. Oh my god. What? I would never. Okay, you got me. It was me. I know it's you. You're the only. I noticed something. There is some people that have a favorite sound. They have a favorite sound, and then they always play it, and they always play that sound. Daiko, you're the one that gives me all the spooks. So I know that when there's a boo, it's you. Warlock just presses all the buttons. I don't know what anyone else. Oh yeah, my mod's favorite one is just a VTuber another different popular VTuber saying what the fuck. So I eventually learn all of you by the sounds that you use. Eventually I learn. Yes, all the spooks. You spook. Oh. Oh. Someone has finally done it. Hey, yo. Chat's now jailed. Thank you. I put it purposely there for somebody to mess up and click it without knowing what it is. It's jailing chat. It's literally a self-jail of chat. welcome to jail, chat. No, it's not horny jail. It's just jail. Welcome to jail. This is probably the newest favorite addition that I have in my chat. What is this? Let me out. I know. Shiny buttons. Oh my god. The George This Is Fine emote is the best emote to fucking actually have with this. But yeah. Oh my god. Is that you guys, like, singing from the bars? What? What pup? What? What? You're stretching. You saw something. My doggy saw something. Hold on, I'm gonna put my dog down because she's probably like, probably hears something. Oh, there she goes. She's out the door. She's out my office door. Oh my gosh. Is that you guys speaking from jail? Don't worry. Don't worry. It's only about. Oh, hold on. Let me put a timer on for like 4 minutes. You're supposed to be locked in there for 5 minutes. So here, let me start the timer. Yeah. You get basically it's a timeout. It's basically a purposeful timeout. Hold on. I thought I had a 5-minute timer. Apparently
Add butter. Add butter. Add butter.
Add
Add butter.
butter.
Add butter. Add butter. Add butter. Add butter. Add butter. Add butter.
Oh my god. You can hear it. Yeah, add butter. Free up my guys. We ain't doing nothing. No, don't worry, don't worry. It's only a 5-minute timeout. 4 minutes, here you go. Because it's been like a minute. So there you go. It my phone will buzz when it says that I can let you free. Don't worry. It's it's purposely there. Yeah, when Doug said we don't have any proof. You know, the people that did you know the people that talk the loudest are the ones that actually have something to hide. No, I'm not joking. That's like really actually proven. The more that you talk, the more that you talk saying like, "Yeah, I don't got nothing. This person's the one that has everything. They're the ones that did the problem." Yeah, you're the ones that made me. I only have one thing to say. What is that? Yeah, why are you guys all turning on me? It was Bot that pressed it. It wasn't me. Bot did it. Okay. Yeah. There you go. It wasn't me. Remember, guys, I didn't press it this time. It was Bot. Bot pressed the shiny buttons. And the thing is, though, I feel like Warlock will eventually just click on it for funny things. I feel like everybody at one point, if they don't remember, will click it. And they'll be like, what is this? And then this happens. And I like that all of you turn on me when it's not even my fault. The first time, yes, I purposely put you guys in there because you needed it. You purposely were doing some stuff, and I'm like, yeah, you're gonna go in there now. Go, have fun. No, this is your fault because you tempted Bot with shiny buttons. Hey, I just add the buttons. I just add the buttons. I'm not the one that presses them. Well, no, I say that wrong. I did press one, but be in mind, you guys are the one that could choose what buttons to press. What do you think jail them even means? It's described. It's a jail. What you think that this jail is supposed to go over me? No, it's supposed to be for you and only you. How evil is art? Hey yo, I'm a chaotic god. I am chaos incarnate. So I'm not really evil. I'm just extremely chaotic neutral. That's what I am. Schrodinger's bot. I might press the button. I might not. Oh my god, are we having an existential crisis right now with this? Yes, jail yourself. Oh my god. No. What? You want me to be in the jail? Is that what you request? Hold on. You request this? This is what you request? Oh my gosh, there we go. This this is what you request. Oh my god. Why does this fit really well? Why? So I'm reading from jail now? Is that what you want? Is that what you think jail them means? Oh my god. Is this what jail is this what you want jail them to mean? Because I hate you all if this is. Yup. Don't put the head pat in there. Hey yo, hey yo. Well, you know what the great thing is? I'm freed. Haha. Suckers. Because I only get jailed for 5 minutes. Should have thought about that. Anyways, can we get on to the last and final chapter now? The last and final one. See, it was made for your side of the screen. Shut up! No, it wasn't. I purposely made it to go over chat. It's only for chat. It's literally a redeem I can do for myself. I just wanted to put the redeem on there just to kind of see who would press it. But no, it's going back. It's going back in its place. It's going back. It's going back in its place. I don't care what you guys say. It's going back. There you go. There we go. Okay. Now continuing on. The last chapter of the last chapter of Frankenstein.
Emotional damage.
'Twas not emotional damage. My present situation was one in which all voluntary thought was swallowed up and lost. I was hurried away by fury, and rage alone endowed me within strength and composure. It molded my feelings and allowed me to be collected and calm, at periods when otherwise delirium or death would have been my portion. My first resolution was to quit Geneva forever, my country, which when I was happy and beloved was dear to me, now in my adversity became hateful. I provided myself with a sum of money, together with a few jewels which had belonged to my mother, and departed. And now my wanderings began, which are to cease with life. I have traversed a vast portion of the earth, and have endured all the hardships which travelers in deserts and barabonous countries are wont to meet. How I have lived, I hardly know. Many times have stretched my failing limbs upon the sandy plain, and prayed for death. Revenge kept me alive. I dared not die, and leave my adversity in being. When I quitted Geneva, my first labor was to gain some clue by which I have traced the steps of my fiendish enemy. But my plan was unsettled, and I wandered many hours round the confines of the town, uncertain what path I should pursue. As night approached, I found myself at the entrance of the cemetery where William, Elizabeth, and my father reposed. I entered it, and approached the tomb which marked their graves. Everything was silent, except the leaves of the trees, which were gently agitated by the wind. The night was nearly dark, and the scene would have been solemn and affecting to uninterested observery. The spirits of the departed seemed to flit around and cast a shadow, which was felt but not seen, around the head of the mourner. The deep grief which this scene had at first excited quickly gave way to rage and despair. They were dead, and I lived. The murderer also lived, and to destroy him I must drag out my weary existence. I knelt on the grass and kissed the earth, and with quivering lips exclaimed, by the sacred earth on which I kneel, by the shades that wander near me, by the deep and eternal grief that I feel, I swear, and by thee, O night, and the spirits that preside over thee, to pursue the daemon who caused this misery, until he or I shall perish in mortal conflict. For this purpose, I could perceive my life, my life to execute this dear revenge, will I again behold the sun, and tread the green herbage of earth, which otherwise should banish from my eyes forever. And I call on you, spirits of the dead, and on you, wandering ministries of vengeance, to aid and conduct me in my work. Let the curse and the hellish monster drink deep of agony. Let him feel the despair that now torments me. I had begun my adjuration with some solemnity and an awe which also almost assured me that the shades of my murdered friends heard and approved my devotion. But the furies possessed me as I concluded, and rage choked my utterance. I was answered through the stillness of night by a loud and fiendish laugh. It rang on my ears, long and heavy. The mountains re-echoed it, and I felt as if all the hills surrounded me with mockery and laughter. Surely in that moment I should have been possessed by frenzy and have destroyed my miserable existence. But that my vow, not with mockery, but that my vow was heard, and that I was reserved for vengeance. The laughter died away, when a well-known abhorred voice, apparently close to my ear, addressed me in an audible whisper. I am satisfied, miserable wretch. You have determined to live. You have determined to live, and I am satisfied. I darted towards the spot from which the sound proceeded, but the devil eluded my grasp. Suddenly the broad disk of the moon rose and shone full upon his ghastly and distorted shape as he fled, and from then mortal speed I pursued him, and for many months this has been my task. Guided by a slight clue, I followed the windings of the Rhone, but vainly. The blue Mediterranean approached, and by a strange chance I saw the fiend enter by night and hid himself in a vessel bound for the Black Sea. I took my passage in the same ship, but he escaped, I know not how, and missed the wiles of Tartary and Russia. Although he still evaded me, I have ever followed his tracks. Sometimes the peasants, scared by his horrid apparition, informed me of his path. Sometimes he himself, who feared that if I lost all trace of him, I would disappear and die, left some mark to guide me. The snow was descended on my head, and I saw the print of his huge step on the white plain. To you first entering on my life, to whom care is new, and agony unknown, how can you understand what I have felt and still feel? Cold, want, and fatigue were the least pains which I disdained to endure. I was cursed by some devil, and carried about with me an eternal hell. Yet still a spirit of good followed and directed my steps, and when I most murmured, would suddenly extricate me from seemingly insurmountable difficulties. Sometimes when nature overcame by hunger, uh, sometimes when nature, overcame by hunger, sank under the exertion, a repast was prepared for me in the desert, and that restored and inspired me. The fare was indeed coarse, such as the peasants of the country ate. But I will not doubt that it was set there by the spirits that I had involved to aid me. Often when all was dry, the heavens cloudless, and I was parched by thirst, a slight cloud would bedeom the sky, shed the few drops that revived me, and vanish. I followed when I could, but the sources of the river, but the daemon generally avoid these, as it was here that the population of the country chiefly collected. In other places, human beings were seldom seen, and I generally sustained on the wild animals that crossed my path. I had money with me and gained the friendship of the villagers by distributing it. Or I brought with me some food that I had killed, which after taking a small part I always presented to those who had provided me with fire and utensils for cooking. My life as it passed thus was indeed hateful to me, and it was during sleep alone that I could taste joy. O blessed sleep! Often when most miserable I sank to repose, and my dreams lulled me even to rapture. The spirits that guarded me had provided these moments, or rather hours, of happiness that I might retain strength to fulfill my pilgrimage. Deprived of this respite, I should have sunk under my hardships. During the day I was sustained and inspired by the hope of night, for in sleep I saw my friends, my wife, and my beloved country. Again I saw the benevolent countenance of my father, heard the silver tones of Elizabeth's voice, and beheld Silval enjoying health and youth. Often, when wearied by a toilsome march, I persuaded myself that I was dreaming until night should come, and that I should then enjoy reality in the arms of my dearest friends. What agonizing fondness did I feel for them! How did I cling to their dear forms, as sometimes they haunted even my waking hours, and persuaded myself that they still lived. At such moments vengeance that burned within me died in my heart, and I pursued my path towards the destruction of the daemon, more as a task enjoyed by heaven, as the mechanical impulse of some power of which I was unconscious, than as the ardent desire of my soul. What his feelings were whom I pursued I cannot know. Sometimes, indeed, he left markings and writings on barks of the trees, or cut in stone. He guided me, and instigated my fury. My reign is not yet over. These words were legible in one of these inscriptions. You live, my power is complete. Follow me, I seek the everlasting ices of north, where you will feel the misery of cold and frost to which I am impassive. You will find near this place, if you follow not too tardily, a dead hare. Eat, be refreshed. Come on, my enemy. We have yet to wrestle for our lives, but many hard and miserable hours must be endured until the period shall arrive. Scoffing devil, again do I vow vengeance. Again do I devote thee, miserable fiend, to torture and death. Never will I give up my search until he or I perish, and then with the ecstasy shall I join my Elizabeth, my departed friends, who even now prepare for me the reward of my tedious toil. and horrible pilgrimage. As I still pursued my journey to the northward, the snows thickened, and the cold increased in a degree almost too severe to support. The peasants were shut up in their hovels, and only a few of the most hardy ventured forth to seize the animals whom starvation had forced from their hiding places to seek for prey. The rivers were covered with ice, and no fish could be procured, and thus I was cut off from my chief article of maintenance. The triumph of my enemy increased with the difficulty of my labors. One inscription that he left was in these words: "Prepare! Your toils only begin. Wrap yourself in furs and provide food, for we shall soon enter upon a journey where years' suffering will satisfy by everlasting hatred." My courage and preservation were invigorated by these scoffing words. I resolved not to fail in my purpose, and calling on heaven to support me, I continued, with unadopted favor, to traverse immense deserts until the ocean appeared at a distance, and formed the utmost boundary of the horizon. Oh, how unlike it was to the blue seasons of the south, covered with ice. It was only to be distinguished from the land by its superior wilderness and ruggedness. The Greeks wept for joy when they beheld the Mediterranean from the hills of Asia, and hailed with rapture the boundary of their tolls. I did not weep, but I knelt down, and with full heart thanked my guiding spirit for conducting me in safety to the place where I hoped, notwithstanding my adversaries gibble, to meet and grapple with him. Some weeks before this period I had procured a sled and dogs, and thus traversed the snows with inconceivable speed. I know not whether the fiend possessed the same advantages, but I found that as before I had daily lost ground in the pursuit. I now gained on him, so much so that when I first saw the ocean he was but 1 day's journey in advance. I hoped to intercept him before he could reach the beach. With new courage, therefore, I pressed on, and in 2 days arrived at a wretched hamlet on the seashore. I inquired of the inhabitants concerning the fiend, and gained accurate information. A gigantic monster, they said, had arrived the night before, armed with a gun and many pistols, putting to flight the inhabitants of a solitary cottage. Through fear of this terrific appearance, he had carried off their store of winter food, and placed it in a shed, to draw which he had seized a numerous drove of trained dogs. He had harnessed them, and the same night, to the joy of the horror-struck villagers, had pursued his journey across the sea in a direction that led to no land, and they conjectured that he must speedily be destroyed by the breaking of the ice, or frozen by the eternal frost. On hearing this information, I suffered a temporary access of despair. It escaped me, and I must commence a destructive and almost endless journey across the mountainous ices of the ocean, amidst could that few of the inhabitants across the mountainous ices of the ocean, amidst cold about that few of the inhabitants could long endure, and which I, the native of a genial and sunny climate, could not hope to survive. Yet at the idea that the fiend should live and be triumphant, my rage and vengeance returned, and like a mighty tide overwhelmed every other feeling. After a slight repose, during which the spirits of the dead hovered round, and instigated me to toil and revenge, I prepared for my journey. I exchanged my land sledge for one fashioned for equidities of the frozen ocean, and purchasing a plentiful stock of provisions, I departed from land. I cannot guess how many days have passed since then, but I have endured misery which nothing but the eternal sentiment of the just retribution burning within my heart could have enabled me to support. Immense and rugged mountains of ice often barred up my passage, and I often heard the thunder of the grounded sea with its which threatened my destruction. But again the frost came, and made the paths of the sea secure. By the quantity of provisions which I had consumed, I should guess that I passed 3 weeks in this journey, and the continual precation of hope returning back upon my heart often wrung bitter drops of despondency and grief from my eyes. Despair had indeed almost secured her prey, and I should soon have sunk beneath this misery. Once, after the poor animals that conveyed me had with incredible toil gained the summit of a sloping ice mountain, and one, sinking under the fatigue, died, I viewed the expanse before me with anguish, which suddenly my eye caught a dark peck upon the dusky plain. I strained my sight to discover that it could be, and uttered a wild cry of ecstasy when I distinguished a sled, and the distorted proportions of a well-known from within. Oh, with that a burning gush did hope revisit my heart. Warm tears filled my eyes, which I hastily wiped away, that they might not intercept the view I had of the daemon. But still my sight was dimmed by the burning drops, until giving way to emotions that oppressed me, I wept aloud. But this was not the time for delay. I discumber I oh my god. This disencumbered the dogs of their dead companion, gave them plentiful portion of food, and after an hour's rest, which was absolutely necessary, and yet which was bitterly irksome to me, I continued my route. The sledge was still visible, nor did I again lose sight of it, except at the moment when, for a short time, some ice rock concealed it with its intervening crags. I indeed, oh my god. I'm gonna take a drink. Hold on. Ah. Where is it? I indeed what? Where is it? No. That's in the second paragraph. Oh, here you go. Oh my gosh, really? What a stretch, thank you. No turning into a shrimp. Yes. Also, excuse my dog in the background. My mom is going to church, and the person who's taking her to church, my dog very much loves. That's why she's barking. She barks because she really, really wants to get outside and say hello to them. But no, Leia, not yet. Yeah. Oh no, not this. I don't need that. I need this. There we go. Okay, bye! Okay! Okay! I'm trying to find my place. Oh, I indeed Oh my god. All the burps just happened at once. Oh my goodness. Perceptibly gained on it. And when after nearly 2 days' journey I beheld my enemy at no more than a mile distance, my heart bounded within me. But now, when I appeared almost within grasp of my foe, my hopes were suddenly extinguished, and I lost all trace of him, more utterly than I had ever done before. A ground sea was heard, the thunder of its progress, as the waters rolled and swelled beneath me, became every moment more ominous and terrific. I pressed on within vain. The wind arose, the sea roared, and as within the mighty shock of an earthquake, it split and cracked with a tumultuous and overwhelming sound. The work was soon finished. In a few moments a tumultuous sea rolled between me and my enemy, and I was left drifting on a scattered piece of ice that was continuously listening and thus preparing for me a hideous death. In this manner many appalling hours passed. Several of my dogs died, and I myself was about to sink under the accumulation of distress, when I saw your vessel riding at anchor, and holding forth to my hopes of secure in life. I had no conception that vessels ever came so far north, and was astounded at the sight. I quickly destroyed part of my sled and constructed oars, and by these means was enabled with the infinite fatigue to move my ice raft in the direction of your ship. I had determined, if you were going southwards, still to trust myself to the mercy of the seas rather than abandon my purpose. I hoped to induce you to grant me a boat with which I could pursue my enemy. But your direction was northwards. You took me aboard when my vigor was exhausted, and I should soon have sunk under my multitude hardships within a death which I still dread, for my task is unfulfilled. Oh, when will my guided spirit Hi, puppy. You want to come back up? Hold on. Hold on. There you go. Nice kiss. Here we go. Back on your spot. Yeah, you go back on your spot. Back on your bed. There you go. All nice and warm. All nice and warm and cozy. No. I'm not giving you attention until later, okay? Can I finish this chapter? Okay, thank you. Don't stare at me like that. You know the idea of the puppy eyes? Yeah, she's doing that to me. Oh no. There, that's one pat on your head. Oh no, you give her one pat, she wants all pats. No. No, puppy. Not now. Not now. Oh, when will my guiding spirit, in conducting me to the daemon, allow me rest I so much desire? Or must I die, and he yet live? If I do, swear to me, Walton, that he shall not escape, that you will seek him and satisfy my vengeance in his death. And do I dare to ask of you to undertake my pilgrimage, to endure the hardships that I have undergone? No, I am not selfish. Yet when I am dead, if he should appear, if the ministers of vengeance should conduct him to you, swear that he shall not live. Swear that he shall not triumph over my accumulated woes, and survive to aid to the list of his dark crimes. He is eloquent and persuasive, and once his words has even power over my heart. But trust him not. His soul is hellish as his form, full of treachery and fiend-like malice. Hear him not. Call on the names of William, Justine, Saval, Elizabeth, my father, and of wretched Victor, and trust your sword and thrust your sword into his heart. I will, however, near and direct the steel aright. You know what's very interesting? I just realized. I'll talk about it later, but there's one thing that I'm just like, wait. And I was thinking about it when I was reading it, and I'm like, wait a minute. But I'll tell you guys what it is later. Walton, Robert Walton, the very beginning of the book, Robert Walton is now continuing on the story from here. Because remember, all of this is Victor telling Walton what's going on. Walton is then writing this down in a variety of letters to his sister. So Robert is writing to his sister. August 26th, 1700s. You have read this strange and terrific story, Margaret. And do you feel your blood congeal with horror, like that which even now curdles mine? Sometimes seized with sudden agony, he could not continue his tale. At others his voice broken, yet piercing, uttered with difficulty the words to replicate with anguish. His fine and lovely eyes were even now lighted up with indignation, now subdued to downcast sorrow, and quenched in infinite wretchedness. Sometimes he commended his countenance and tones, and related the most horrible incidents, with a tranquil voice, suppressing every mark of agitation. Then, like a volcano bursting forth, his face would suddenly change to an expression of the wildest range. As he shrieked, oh my God, as he shrieked out imprecations on his persecutor. His tale is connected, and told with an appearance of the slightest truth. Yet I own to you that the letters of Felix and Safie, which he showed me, and the apparition of the monster seen from our ship, brought to me a greater conviction of the truth of the narrative. And his assertions, however earnest and connected, such a monster has then real existence. I cannot doubt it, yet I'm lost in the surprise and admiration. Sometimes I'm endeavored to gain from Frankenstein the particulars of this creature's formation. But on this point he was impenetrable. Are you mad, my friend? Said he. Or whither does your senseless curiosity lead you? Would you also create yourself and the world a demical enemy? Peace, peace. Learn my miseries, and do not seek to increase your own. Frankenstein discovered that I made notes concerning his history. He asked to see them, and then himself corrected and augmented them in many places, but principally in giving the life and spirit of the conversations he held with his enemy. Since you have perceived my narrative, said he, I would not that a mutilated one should go down to posterity. Thus has a week passed away, while I have listened to the strangest tale that ever imagination formed. My thoughts and every feeling of my soul have been drunk up by the interest of my guest, which his tale and his own elevated and gentle manners have created. I wish to soothe him, yet can I console one so infinitely miserable, to destitute of every hope of consolation to live? Oh no! The only joy that he can now know will be when he composes this shattered spirit to peace and death. Yet he enjoys one comfort, the offspring of solitude and delirium. He believes that when in dreams he holds converse with his friends, and derives from that communication consolation for his miseries, or excitements of his vengeance. That they are not the creations of his fancy, but the beings themselves who visit him from the regions of a remote world. This faith gives a solemnity to his reveres that render them to me almost as imposing and interesting as truth. Our conversations are not always confided to his own history and misfortunes. On every point of general literature he displays unfounded knowledge and a quick and piercing apparition. His eloquence is forcibly and touching, nor can I hear him when he relates a pathetic incident or endeavors to move the passions of pity or of love without tears. What a gorgeous creature must he have been in the days of his prosperity, when he is thus noble and godlike in ruin? He seems to feel his own worth and the greatness of this fall. When younger, he said, I believed myself disdained for some great enterprise, or destined for some great enterprise. My feelings are profound, but I possessed a coolness of judgment that bitted me for illustrations, achievements. The sentiment of the worth of my nature supported me, when others would have been oppressed. For I deemed it criminal to throw away in useless grief those talents that might be useful to my fellow creatures. When I reflected on the work I had completed, no less one than the creation of a sensitive and rational animal, I could not rank myself with the herd of common projectors. But this thought, which supported me in my countenance of my career, now serves only to plunge my lower in the dust. Oh, plunge me lower in the dust. All my speculations and hopes as nothing, and like the archangel who appraises to omniscience, I am chained in eternal hell. My imagination was vivid, yet my powers of analysis and application were intense. By the union of these qualities I conceived the idea and executed the creation of man. Even now I cannot recollect without passion my reverse, oh my God, reveries, while the work was incomplete. I trode heaven in my thoughts, now exulating in my powers, now burning with the idea of their efforts. From my infancy I was embedded with the high hopes and lofty ambition. But now I am sunk. Oh, my friend, if you had known me as I once was, you would not recognize me in this state of degradation. Despondency rarely visited my heart. A high destiny seemed to bear me on till I fell, never, never again to rise. Must I then lose this admiration, this admirable being? I have longed for a friend. I have sought one who would sympathize with me, one who would sympathize with and love me. Behold, on these desert seas I have found such a one, but I fear I have gained him only to know his value and lose him. I would reconcile him to life, but he repulses the idea. I thank you, Walton, he said, for your kind intentions towards so miserable a wretch, but when you speak of new ties and fresh affections, think you that any can replace those who are gone. Can any man be to me as Saval was, or any woman another Elizabeth? Even where the affections are not strongly moved by any superior excellence, the companionship of our childhood always possessed a certain power over our minds, which hardly any friend can obtain. They know our infinite dispositions, which, however they may be afterwards modified, or never eradicated, and they can judge of our actions with more certain conclusions as to the integrity of our motives. A sister or brother can never, unless, indeed, such sympathies have been shown early, suspect the other of fraud or false dealing, when another friend, however strongly he may be attracted, may, in spite of himself, be contemplated with suspicion. But I enjoyed friends, dear not only through habit and association, but from their own merits, and wherever I am, the soothing voice of my Elizabeth and the conversation of Saval will be ever whispered in my ear. They are dead, and but one feeling in such solitude can persuade me to preserve my life. If I were engaged in any high undertaking of design.
Time too simple.
Oh my god. A time too simple. Hi, Silver. Thank God you caught me with that. Time too simple. I'm gonna take a drink for that. Good evening, good evening. Anyway. Sorry, let me finish this last paragraph, and then we can I'll say my hellos to you. Oh, if I were engaged in any high undertaking or design, fraught with extensive utility to my fellow creatures, then could I live to fulfill it. But such is not my destiny. I must pursue and destroy the being to whom I gave existence, and then my lot on earth will be fulfilled, and I may die. We're not done yet, but well, we got 10 pages left. But hello, Silver, it's been a long, long while. I changed up a lot of the scenes, or I changed up a lot of my stuff. There's a lot of new changes. I got a new outfit. I got some new sound redeems. And just redeems in general, just for fun stuff. There's so many I have so many redeems. I have so many redeems. And you know what? I don't care. I can have as many redeems as I possibly want. Apparently the max is 50. I'm like, you can have 50 redeems? Oh my gosh. It must have been some time. I've been on Twitch. I haven't been on Twitch much. Just saw the insane amount of redeems. Yeah, there's so many. There's so many. But hey. I mean, the more redeems that there are, the more fun it is. Because there's more shit for you to do. So, if anything, there is no limit. But yeah, we are currently finishing up on Frankenstein. We're literally on the last chapter. This is me reading the last ending chapter of Frankenstein. But on YouTube, all slowly but surely. I've been waiting for somebody to do that one. Oh my god. But yeah, we're currently trying to finish it, and oh my god, I'm like getting tired. I'm getting tired from reading. Last 10 pages, perfect timing to pull up a seat. Yeah, I know. I'm starting to get tired from reading. Oh my goodness. But after we're done, we're gonna be conducting a list. We're gonna be conducting a list of what books to read next. Or at least, conducting a list. And then, for next year, of what books we can go and read through. And then we will, um, and then eventually I'll have like things up to poll to vote for which one you guys want to read. So, but that'll be like, when we get closer to like an end of a book, then I'll put the poll up so that you guys can vote, and then that's the book we'll read. September 2nd. My beloved sister, I write to you, encompassed by peril, and ignorant whether I am ever doomed to see again dear England, and the dear friends that inhabit it. I am surrounded by mountains of ice, which admit of no escape, and threaten every moment to crush my vessel. Brave fellows, whom I have persuaded to be my companions, look towards me for aid. But I have none to bestow. There is something terrible appealing in our situation, yet my courage and hopes do not desert me. Yet it is terrible to reflect that the lives of all these men have endured through me. If we lost, my mad schemes are the cause. And what, Margaret, will be the state of your mind? You will not hear of my destruction, and you will anxiously await my return. Years will pass, and you will have visitings of despair, and yet be tortured by hope. Oh, my beloved sister, the sickening failing of your heartfelt expectations in this prospect more terribly to me than my own death. But you have a husband and lovely children. You may be happy. Heaven bless you and make you so. My unfortunate guest regards me with the tenderness, compassion, and he endeavors to fill me with hope, and talks of as if life were a possession which he valued. He reminds me how often the same accidents have happened to other navigators who have attempted the sea, and in spite of myself he fills me with cheerful auguries. Even the sailors feel the power of his eloquence. Even when he speaks, they no longer despair. He rouses their energies, and while they hear his voice, they believe these vast mountains of ice are molehills, which will vanish before the resolution of man. These feelings are transitory. Each day of expedition delayed fills with fear, and I almost dread a mutiny caused by this despair. September 5th. A scene has just passed of such uncommon interest that although it is highly probable that these papers may never reach you, yet I cannot forbear recording it. We are still surrounded by mountains of ice, still in imminent danger of being crushed in their conflict. The cold is excessive, and many of my unfortunate comrades have already found a grave amidst the scene of desolation. Frankenstein has daily declined in health. A feverish fire still glimmers in his eyes, but he is exhausted. And when suddenly aroused to my exertion, he speedily sinks again, then apparent lifelessness. I mentioned in my last letter the fears I entertained of mutiny. This morning, as I sat watching the wan countenance of my friend, his eyes half closed and his limbs hanging listlessly, I aroused by half a dozen of the sailors, who demanded admission into the cabin. They entered, and their leader addressed me. He told me that he and his companions had been chosen by the other sailors to come in deputation to me, to make me reling, re, re, oh my gosh, requisition, which injustice I could not refuse. We were immured in ice, and should probably never escape, but they feared that if, as was possible, the ice should dissipate and free passage be opened, I would be rash enough to continue my voyage, and lead them into fresh dangers after they might happily have surmounted this. They insisted, therefore, that I should engage with solemn promise that if the vessel should be freed, I would instantly direct my course southwards. This speech troubled me. I had not despaired, nor had I yet conceived the idea of returning. If set free, yet could I, in justice, or even in possibility, refuse this demand? I hesitated before I answered, when Frankenstein, who had at first been silent, and indeed appeared hardly to have force enough to attend, now roused himself. His eyes sparkled, and his cheeks flushed with monetary vigor. Turning towards these men, he said, "What do you mean? What do you demand?" Craggle, what do you demand? Of your captain? Are you then so easily turned from your design? Did you not call this victorious expedition? And wherefore was it glorious? Not because the way was smooth and placid as the southern sea, but because it was full of dangers and terror, because at every new incident your fortitude was to be called forth, and your courage exhibited because danger and death surrounded it, and these you were too brave and overcome. For this was it an honorable undertaking. You were hereafter to be hailed as the benefactors of your species, your names adored as belonging to brave men who encountered death for honor and benefit of mankind, and now beheld with the first imagination of danger, or, if you will, the first mighty and terrific trial of your courage, you shrink away, and are content to hand it down as men who had not strength enough to endure cold and peril, and so poor souls they were chilly and returned to their warm firesides. Why that requires not the presentation, ye need not have come thus far, and dragged your captain to the shame of the defeat merely to prove yourselves cowards. Oh, be men, or be more than men. Be steady to your purposes and firm as a rock. This ice is not made of such stuff as your hearts may be. It is mutable and cannot withstand you. If you say that it shall not, do not return to your families with the stigma of disgrace marked by your brows. Return as heroes who have fought and conquered, and who know not what it is to turn their backs on the foe. He spoke this with a voice so modulated to the different feelings expressed in his speech, with an eye so full of lofty design and heroism, that can you wonder that these men were moved? They looked at one another and were unable to reply. I spoke. I told them to retire and to consider what had been said, and that I should not lead them farther north if they strenuously desired the contrary, but that I hoped that, with reflection, their courage would return. They retired, and I turned towards my friend, but he was sunk in languor, and almost deprived of life. How all of this will terminate, I know not. But I had rather die than return shamefully, my purpose unfulfilled. Yet I fear such will be my fate. The men, unsupported by ideas of glory and honor, can never unwillingly continue to endure their present hardships. September 7th. The die is cast. I have consisted to return, if we are not destroyed. Thus are my hopes blasted by cowardice and indecision. I came back ignorant and disappointed. It requires more philosophy than I possess to bear this injustice with patience. September 12th. It is past. I am returning to England. I have lost my hopes of utility and glory. I have lost my friend. But I will endeavor to detail these bitter circumstances to you, my dear sister. And, while I am wafted towards England and towards you, I will not despond. September 9th. The ice began to move, and roarings like thunder were heard at a distance as the ice split and cracked in every direction. We were in the most imminent peril, but as we could only remain passive, my chief attention was occupied by my unfortunate guest, whose illness increased in such a degree that he was entirely confined to his bed. The ice cracked behind us, and was driven with force towards the north. A breeze sprung from the west, and at the 11th, the passage towards the south became perfectly free. When the sailors saw this, and that their return to their native country was apparently assured, a shout of tumultuous joy broke from them, loud and long continued. Frankenstein was so dozing awoke and asked the cause of the tumult. They shout, I said, because they will soon return to England. Do they, then, really return? Alas, yes. I cannot withstand their demands. I cannot lead them unwillingly to danger, and I must return. Do you, if you will, but I will not. You may give up your purpose, but mine is assigned to me by heaven, and I dare not. I am weak, but surely the spirits who assist my vengeance will endow me with sufficient strength. Saying this, he endeavored to spring from the bed, but the exertion was too great for him. He fell back and fainted. It was long before he was restored, and I often thought that life was eternally extinct. At length he opened his eyes. He breathed with difficulty and was able to speak. The surgeon gave him a composing draught and ordered us to leave him undisturbed. In the meantime, he told me that my friend had certainly not many hours to live. His sentence was pronounced, and I could only grieve and be patient. I sat by his bed and watching him. His eyes were closed, and I thought he was asleep. But presently he called to me in a feeble voice, and bidding me come near, said, "Alas, my strength I relied on is gone. I feel that I shall soon die. And he, my enemy, and persecutor, may still be in being. Think not, Walton, that in the last moments of my existence I feel the burning hatred and ardent desire of revenge I once expressed, but I feel myself justified in desiring the death of my adversary. During these last days I have been occupied in examining my past conduct, nor do I find it blamable. In a fit of enthusiastic madness, I created a rational creature and was bound towards him to assure, as far as was in my power, his happiness and well-being. This was my duty. But there was another still prominent to that. My duties towards the beings of my own species had greater claims to my attention, because they included a greater proportion of happiness or misery. Urged by this view, I refused, and I did right in refusing to create a companion for the first creature. He showed unparalleled malignity and selflessness and evil, destroyed my friends. He devoted to destruction beings who posed exquisite sensations, happiness, and wisdom. Nor do I know where the thirst for vengeance may end. Miserable himself, with he may render no other wretched. He ought to die. The task of destruction was mine, but I have failed. When acquitted by selfless and vicious motives, I asked you to undertake my unfinished work. I renew this request now, when I am only induced by reason and virtue. Yet I cannot ask you to renounce your country and friends to fulfill this task, and now that you are returning to England, you will have little chance of meeting with him. But the consideration of these points and the well-balancing of what you may esteem your duties, I leave to you. My judgment and ideas are already disturbed by the near approach of death. I dare not ask you to do what I think right, for I may still be misled by passion. That he should live to be an instrument of mischief disturbs me in other respects this hour, and I momentarily expect my release. Is the only happy one which I have enjoyed for several years. The forms of the beloved dead flit before me, and I hasten. Hold on. I'm turning my phone off. I'm so done with getting all these fucking things. I don't know. Oh, big young puppy. I'm gonna need a puppy after. I'm gonna need a puppy snuggle after this. Oh my gosh. The forms of the beloved dead flit before me, and I hasten to their arms. Farewell, Walton. Seek happiness and tranquility, and avoid ambition, even if it be only the apparently innocent one of disguising yourself in science and discoveries. Yet why do I say this? I have myself been blasted in these hopes, yet another may succeed. His voice became faint as he spoke, and at length, exhausted by his efforts, he sunk into silence. About half an hour afterwards, he attempted again to speak, but was unable. He pressed my hand feebly, and his eyes closed forever, while the irradiation of gentle smile passed away from his lips. Margaret, what comment can I make on the utterly extinct of this glorious spirit? What can I say that will enable you to understand the depth of my sorrow? All that I should express would be inadequate and feeble. My tears flow, my mind is overshadowed by a cloud of disappointment, but I journey towards England, and I may there find consolation. I am interrupted. What do these sounds portend? It is midnight, the breeze flows fairly, and watch on the decks scarcely stir. Again there is a sound of a human voice that hoarses. It comes from the cabin where the remains of Frankenstein still lie. I must arise and examine. Good night, my sister. Great God! What a scene has just taken place. I am yet dizzy with the remembrance of it. I hardly know whether I shall have the power to detail it. Yet the tale which I have recorded would be incomplete without this final and wonderful catastrophe. I entered the cabin where lay the remains of my ill-fated and admirable friend. Over him hung a form which I cannot find the words to describe, gargantuan in stature, yet uncouth and distorted in its portion. As he hung over the coffin, his face was concealed by long locks of ragged hair, but one vast hand was extended in color and abhorrent texture like that of a mummy. When he heard the sound of my approach, he ceased to utter explanations of grief and horror, and sprung towards the window. Never did I behold a vision so horrible of his face, of such a loathsome yet appealing hideousness. I shut my eyes involuntarily and endeavored to collect what were my duties with regard to this destroyer. I called on him to stay. He paused, looking on me with wonder again and again, turning towards the lifeless form of his creator. He seemed to forget my presence, and every feature and gesture seemed instigated by wildest rage of some uncontrollable passion. Wi-Fi is working now. I think didn't realize you were still streaming. Yeah, this last chapter is very long. We're almost done with it. But welcome in, Mon. Welcome in, Jose. That is also my victim, he exclaimed. Huh. In his murder, my crimes are consummated. The miserable series of my being is wound to its close. O Frankenstein, generous and self-devoted being, what does it avail that I now ask thee to pardon me? I who irrevertibly destroyed thee by destroying all thou lovest. Alas, he is cold. He cannot answer me. His voice seemed suffocated, and my first impulses, which had suggested to me the duty of obeying and dying request of my friend and destroying his enemy, lay now suspended by a mixture of curiosity and compassion.
What the fuck?
I mean, I think that's what he's saying. So true. I approached this tedious being. I dared not again raise my eyes to his face. There was something so scary and unearthly in his ugliness. I attempted to speak, but the words died away on my lips. The monster continued to utter wild and incoherent self-reproaches. At length, I gathered resolution to address him in pause of the tempest of his passion. Your repentance, I said, is now superfluous. If you had listened to the voice of conscience and heeded the stings of remorse before you had urged your diabolical vengeance to this extremity, Frankenstein would have lived. And do you dream? Said the daemon. Do you think that I was then dead to agony and remorse? He continued, pointing to the corpse, he suffered not in the consummation of the deed. Oh, not the 10,000 portion of the anguish that was mine during the lingering detail of this execution. A frightful selflessness hurried me on, while my heart poised with remorse. Think you that the groans of Saval were music to my ears? My heart was fashioned to the suspectable love and sympathy, and when wrenched by misery and vice hated, it did not endure the violence of the courage without torture, such as you cannot even imagine. After the murder of Saval, I returned to Switzerland, heartbroken and overcome. I pitied Frankenstein. My pity amounted to horror. I had horrored myself. But when I discovered that he, the author at once of my existence and of its unspeakable torments, dared to hope for happiness, that while he augmented wretchedness and despair upon me, he thought his own enjoyment and feelings and passions from the indulgence of which I was forever barred, then important, vague, and bitter indignation filled me with insustainable thirst for vengeance. I recollected my threat, and resolved that I should be accomplished. I knew that I was preparing for myself a deadly torture. But I was the slave, not the master, of an impulse which I distressed, yet could not disobey. Yet when she died, nay, when I was not miserable, I had cast off all feelings, subdued all anguish to riot in the excuse of my despair. Evil, there hence, became my good. Urged thus far, I had no choice but to adapt to my nature to an element which I had willingly chosen. The compilation of my demical, I don't know what any of these words mean anymore, designed become an insatiable passion, and now it is ended. There is my last victim. I was at first touched by the expressions of his misery. Yet when I called to the mind of what Frankenstein had said of his powers, I eloquenced and what? What is this word? I have been reading so long, I think I've forgotten what words mean. I'm not joking. What is this? Where am I? Oh, hold on. Oh, eloquence and I know the feeling. I know, right? You read so much. What are words anymore? What are the words that I doubt speak? I know this word, by the way. It's not a hard word. I just literally am so tired that I can't think of what the word means. Oh. Persuasion. There we go. Oh my gods. Are you fucking kidding? I play D&D. I know what persuasion is spelled like. Oh my gosh. And when I again cast my eyes on the lifeless form of my friend, indication was rekindled within me. Wretch, I said, it is well that you come here to whine over the desolation that you have made. You throw a torch into a pile of buildings, and when they are consumed, you sit among the ruins and lament the fall. Hypocritical fiend. If he whom you mourn still lived, still would he be the object, again would he become the prey of your accursed vengeance. It is not pity that you feel, you lament only because the victim of your malignancy is withdrawn from your power. Oh, it is not thus, interrupted the being. Yet such must be the impression conveyed to you by what appears. What, pup? Why are you pawing at my chest? What do you want? You want to come here? You want to lay here? Lay, I have no food. I don't know what you're trying to do. Leia, sit. Thank you. No, sit. Leia, sit. I know you know how to sit. Oh my god. Leia, stop breaking my face tracking with your weird ass back. Leia, sit down. Oh my gosh. Leia, I can't read the book. I cannot read the book. You gotta go over there. There you go. No sympathy may I ever find. Wait. Pup wants cuddles. Yes, she does. She does want cuddles. She wants a lot of cuddles. That's what she wants. And I cannot provide that right now. Yet such must be the impression conveyed to you by what appears to be the purport of my actions. Yet I seek not a fellow feeling in my misery. No sympathy may I ever find. When I first sought it, it was the love of virtue, the feelings of happiness and affection with which my whole being overflowed, that I wished to participate. But now that virtue has become to me a shadow, that happiness and affection are turned into bitter and loathing despair. And what should I seek for sympathy? I am content to suffer alone, while my suffering shall endure. When I die, I am well satisfied with abhorrence, and opprobrium should load my memory. Once my fancy was soothed with dreams of virtue, of fame, and of enjoyment. Once I falsely hoped to meet with beings whom, pardon my outward form, would love me for the excellent qualities which I was capable of unfolding. I was nourished with high thoughts of honor and devotion, but now crime has degraded me beneath the meanest animal. No guilt, no mischief, no malignity, no misery can be found comparable to mine. When I run over the frightful catalogue of my sins, I cannot believe that I am the same creature whose thoughts were filled with the sublime and transcending visions of beauty and the majesty of goodness. But it is even so. The fallen angel becomes a malignant devil. You, even that enemy of God and man, had friends and associates in desolation. I am alone. You who call Frankenstein your friend seem to have a knowledge of my crimes and his misfortunes. But in the detail which he gave you of them, he could not sum up the hours and months of misery which I endured, wasting in impotent passions. For while I destroyed his hopes, I did not satisfy my own desires. They were forever ardent and craving. Still I desired love and fellowship, and I was still spurned. Was there no injustice in this? Am I to be thought the only criminal, when all humankind sinned against me? Why do you not hate Felix, who drove his friend from the door with contumely? Why do you not execute the rustic who sought to destroy the Saviour of his child? Nay, these are victorious and insolent beings. I, the miserable, and abandon and abortion to the spurred at and kicked and trampled on. Even now my blood boils at the recollection of the injustice. But it is true that I am a wretch. I have murdered the lovely and the helpless. I have strangled the innocent as they slept. I grasped to death his throat, who never injured me or any other living thing. I have devoted my Creator, the select specimen of all that is worthy of love, admiration among men, to misery. I have persuaded him to that irremediable ruin. There he lies, white and cold in death. You hate me, but your abhorrence cannot equal that which I regard him myself. I took on the hands which executed the deed. Which executed the deed. I think on the heart in which the imagination of it was conceived, the long for the moment which these hands will meet my eyes, when the imagination will haunt my thoughts no more. Fear not that I shall be the instrument of future mischief. My work is nearly complete. Neither yours nor any man's death is indeed to consummate the series of my being and accomplish that which must be done, but it requires my own. Do not think that I shall slow to perform the sacrifice. I shall quit your vessel on the ice raft which brought me thither, and shall seek the most northern extremity of the globe. I shall collect my funeral pile, and consume to ashes this miserable form, that its remains may afford no light to any curious and hallowed wretch who would create such another as I have been. I shall die. I shall no longer feel agonies which now consume me, or the prey of feelings unsatisfied, yet unquenched. He is dead, who called me into being, and when I shall be no more, the very remembrance of us both will speedily vanish. I shall no longer see the sun or stars, or feel the winds play on my cheeks. Light feeling and sense will pass away, and in the condition must I find my happiness. Some years ago, when the images which the world affords first opened upon me, when I felt the cheering warmth of summer, and heard the rustling of leaves and warbling of birds, and these were all to me, I should have wept to die. Now it is my only consolation. Polluted by crimes, and torn by the bitterness of remorse, where can I find rest but in death? Farewell, I leave you, and in the last of humankind whom these eyes will ever behold, farewell, Frankenstein. If thou wert yet alive, and yet cherished a desire of revenge against me, it would be but better sustained in my life than in my destruction. But it was not so. Thou didst seek my execution, that I must not cause greater wretchedness, and that if yet in some mode unknown to me thou hast not ceased to think and feel, thou would not desire against me a vengeance greater than that which I feel. Blasted as thou wert, my agony was still superior to thine. For the bitter sting of remorse will not cease to rankle in my wounds until death shall close them forever. But soon, he cried with sad and solemn enthusiasm, I shall die, And what I now feel will be no longer. Soon these burning miseries will be extinct. I shall ascend my funeral pyre triumphantly and execute in agony of the touring flames. The light of that conflagration will fade away. My ashes will be swept into the sea of my winds. My spirit will sleep in peace, or if it thinks, it will not surely think thus farewell. Think thus farewell. He sprung from the cabin window, as he said thus, upon the ice raft which lay close to the vessel. He was soon borne away by the waves, and lost in darkness and distance. And that is the end of Frankenstein. So, we can now put these away. Hold on. Where is it? What? Where is it? There you go. There we go. Now we can put these away. How many pages was that, out of curiosity? That was 207 pages. Exactly. Exactly 207 pages. Hold on, I'll put you down. Hold on. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, yes, give me a cuddle. Give me a nice cuddle. Hold on. There we go. And off she goes. Hold on, let me put this away on the bookshelf. But yeah. I think I caught about 15 in total, but great story. Yeah, it's a lot. It's ooh boy, there is so much that happens within this man's life. But I must ask, who do you think was in the wrong within everything? Do you think that Victor, that Victor von Frankenstein was in the wrong? Or do you think that, do you think Victor von Frankenstein was in the wrong? Or do you think that, the monster, the daemon was wrong? And everything that has happened, like, who do you think was really, truly in the wrong of anything? Because, there's a lot of stuff. And apparently a lot of people say, like, two wrongs don't make a right. Mm-hmm. I will say, like, I think what it is that Frankenstein in himself was a man that wanted to go forth in his passions so greatly that he completely, like, forgot about everything. Right. I'm wrong in a matter of perspective. Yeah. I mean, like, true. Like, Frankenstein was so obsessed with his own passions. And actually, we can look up here. What is the oh, here we go. Um so how Mary Shelley describes or at least kind of describes the reason, is that not all science and knowledge produces progress. Because remember, this was during a time in which the idea of wisdom, science, and even still today, even still in today's time, Frankenstein does apply. And it basically says, some people speculate that there's a bunch of different ways, but in the groundness of it, science and the greatness of humanity should not overpower the normal, natural thing of things. Because if we start to become too much like that of a god, then what truly are we? Are we more wretched? Are we the ones that are more monstrous than the creatures that we create? Or is the creatures that we create more awful than who we are? And that whole, and the great thing is, like, around this time is also when I like the monster. He was a good, yeah, he was like a babe, like a child. He didn't know a lot about the world. He was very, very, he didn't understand things, but he grew to understand it. And when he began to understand it, he wasn't evil. He was never evil. And it also comes up with the idea of that we're not born good or evil, but based on how people perceive us, we become that. Because everybody tells us what we have to be, and then we become it. And I think in the end, that's what happened with the monster. Is because everybody conceived him to be something that is evil. He in turn became evil. But he was never evil to begin with. Whereas Frankenstein had committed a very abhorred, like, how guilty is a monster? Hey, yo! I like how Streamlabs accepts that Victor is more guilty than the monster. Like, that's accurate. And then with Victor, he brought something to life, which, oh my gods, and then he tries to pass himself off as, like, a hero. Oh my god. So that's why art is mommy, because it's how chat perceives art. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, this is psychologically actually accurate. Based on how people perceive you, you will become it. There are people that are able to change from it. I gotta sleep now. I'm shattered. Good night. Yeah. Go and sleep. I hope that your dreams will not be with how horrid this all is, but there's a lot. There's a lot. But yeah. Turkey Hydro is done. Ooh. Yeah, so it's, it's that's why, like, some kids become certain ways, because it's not just your personality that may have grown from your own, because your personality comes from a bunch of different things. It's both internal and external. There's still a multitude of things on that, but your morals come from outward things. How you build your morale comes from outward. So would Turkey Hydra taste more turkey or Hydra if cooked? Oh my, turkey. But yeah. So anyways, you guys can figure out all you want. I hope that this has opened your mind to a lot of interesting books that we could read. But we are going to be reading one that at least has a happy ending to it. We will be reading Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. No. Okay, I can't read that because, one, I know for a fact that the fucking person that wrote it would come after me. And I know for a fact that the movie company would come after me. I do not want to deal with both of those. 50 Shades of Art. Hey, yo, have you seen, did you see any of some of my Twitter posts? They're, that's already up there. But yeah. So anyways, I'm so thirsty. After reading all of that, I'm super thirsty. But yeah. What the fuck? Treasure Island? Ooh, Treasure Island might be an interesting one. It is within public domain, so that works. That's good. So let me just get that aside. Here, let me put a little list of books. So I know Brothers Grimm, which I do have. Trish. We could read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but that's a little long. That's a little bit of a hefty book, if you know what I mean. Someone said I should read The Art of War. I know it was Mod. Mod suggested it. He was like, we were talking. He's like, you should read The Art of War. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna read that. You know what? I'm gonna leave that. Oh, by the way, I just want to say, one thing in the book in Frankenstein. Victor von Frankenstein has a brother. It never specifies that the brother is dead. And actually, even in the list of people, it says that he's not dead. So that tells me he's still alive in some capacity. So, I mean, he technically didn't lose everybody. I don't know. Are you serious? Oh my gosh. There you go. There's a bark. But in any circumstance, I already have lined up who we're going to be rating, because I want to at least send you guys to somebody happy after these tragic events that have happened. So in the words of Victor, in some way, hear this awful story and go forth. Figure out what it means and what it means to your heart. And we shall get the raid message going. Oh, now all of you that are subbed, you guys get to do the sub message raid, or the raid sub message. Have the good rest of your time zone. I shall. There's this one. There we go. Yeah. Thank you all so much for watching. And as I always say, may the winds guide you until next time. Goodbye.